Well, Florence Nightingale, as you might guess, was actually born in Florence, in Italy. But actually she was brought up in Derbyshire. She lived with her family in Lea Hurst, in a small village up the Derwent Valley. Her father was very prosperous. He didn't need to work, and she grew up in very much the daughter of a gentleman and his wife. So her first 20, 25, 30 years were spent in Derbyshire, which is why she's important to the county and to the city. In her early life, she became very interested in looking after the poor and the sick in the parish, and she tended to the poor, and it's thought that she even made donations to their doctors to help them when they were sick, and contributed to the creation of reading rooms. So her interest in the nursing profession, very much dates from her time and her childhood in Derbyshire. A couple of years ago, a group of us in Derbyshire got together and we formed ourselves into the Florence Nightingale Derbyshire Association. And the reason we did that was that 2010 marked the centenary of Florence Nightingale's death in, obviously, 1910. She died a very old lady at the age of 90, and people had largely forgotten about her when she died. But of course, now she's an international figure. And the main event that we organised at the time was a cathedral service on the 13th of August. We thought, and the cathedral entirely agreed, how appropriate it would be to have a community event which recognised the contribution of Florence Nightingale and, of course, how much she meant to the citizens of Derby and the citizens of Derbyshire. It was a huge event. I mean, we filled the cathedral. There were over 800 people there. The singing was led by the Derby Hospital Choir. We had a big procession of local dignitaries and nurses, both from the hospitals and from the military. And we even had the presence of the Mercian Regiment, because that was the successor to the Derbyshire Regiment, the 95th Foot, which served in Crimea at the same time as Nightingale was there. And we had their mascot, Private Derby, who's a prime ram. And for the first time ever, he was allowed into the cathedral. Never happened before. The focus this time is different. We're arranging a cathedral service on the 12th of May. And that actually is the birthday of Florence Nightingale. So between us, we thought how appropriate it would be to have a cathedral service on that day. Now, the other point about it, it is also International Nurses Day, which is recognised worldwide as a time where people give thanks to what the nursing profession does for people in their normal lives. And on this occasion, the main event sponsor is the Derby Hospital Trust, of which I happen to be chair, so there's a little bit of a linkage going on here. And they have got together people from the NHS throughout the city of Derby and Derbyshire, local hospitals, and the University of Derby and the University of Nottingham, which helps train nurses. So it's going to be very much an event which celebrates the nursing profession and, of course, gives thanks to the person who essentially created that profession, Florence Nightingale. Well, as chair of the Derby Hospital Trust, I'm extremely pleased that they've decided to become involved in this service this year. And who's to say? I mean, it might become a regular annual event. And perhaps people don't realise there's long been a service in Westminster Abbey on this day. So we rather think, let's have a bit of competition and create an alternative event in the county where she was brought up. And of course, again, as chairman of the Trust, I'm conscious, and many people listening to this will be deeply conscious of the discussions and arguments that are going on presently about the nature and the direction of the National Health Service. But I think the real point here is that Florence Nightingale should be remembered for the huge contribution she actually made to the creation of the nursing profession. And that whatever happens in the NHS, the traditions of the nursing profession, its attitude towards care, its attitude towards the patient, the whole sense of caring for people when they're unwell and bringing to them all the best that medical knowledge and basic human compassion can bring. All of those things matter deeply to Florence Nightingale, and I hope people, when they come or join in the procession and come to the service, will remember all the good things about what she did for the nursing profession and the patient care.